The legal attacks on anyone connected to Donald Trump continue, and this time they're targeting constitutional scholar and former Trump attorney John Eastman. A California state bar court just recommended disbarring Eastman over his efforts to challenge the 2020 election, citing 10 disciplinary charges. But is this really about ethics, or is this just another political hit job? John Eastman joins us now to break it all down. So, John, what are they trying to say this time, right? What grounds is this court actually trying to get you disbarred?
Well, let me kind of lay the groundwork. The trial judge in the California Bar Court nearly a year ago, actually a year ago just this week, recommended disbarment, and it took us a whole year to get before the Bar Court of Appeals. And the hearing last week was before the three-judge panel of the Court of Appeals. But the bar attorneys are continuing to say that I lied, that there was no evidence of fraud or illegality in the election, and therefore, because I said there was, I should be disbarred. Not only on the 10 counts that the trial judge recommended disbarment for, but the insurrection count that they lost and are appealing that. This is really astounding. The Democrats have challenged almost every election in my lifetime, making false statements about ballots and vote suppression and what have you. None of them have been disbarred. This is an overtly political case, and it's being presided over by overtly political judges who continue to donate to Democrat candidates even while they're on the bench. We've got a serious problem in our country if you're not allowed to speak up against illegality in elections that we all saw with our own eyes.
Yeah. So what are the next steps here?
So the appellate division has 3 months to issue a ruling. They could either reaffirm the recommendation for disbarment, or they could overturn that recommendation and recommend either something less than disbarment, such as suspension, or recommend that no sanctions and culpability exist at all. Either way, I suspect will be before the California Supreme Court, which is the only authority that has the ability to impose any discipline. And if there is some discipline recommended by the appellate panel, only the California Supreme Court can impose it if they agree. And we'll fight it vigorously there as well if need be. One hopes the appellate division will see this case for what it is, a case that never should have been brought. It's about contested issues of the election and hotly contested and open questions of constitutional law that even the state's own experts admitted were murky questions and unresolved. That should have ended the case right there, because you can't be disciplined for taking one side or the other of an unresolved and open question of constitutional law.
Now, John, this is a kind of, cutting edge in the bad sense sort of case, I take it. I mean, this is somewhat unprecedented. This sort of thing doesn't usually happen. I'm curious, though, is this, they're going to use this as an example, right, if it wasn't checked, to do this to many other people. Is that happening?
Well, it is happening. And look, the people that brought the bar complaint, a group called the States United Democracy Center, was also hired by the Attorney General in Arizona to prepare the prosecution memo against the Trump electors and ultimately against me as well. This is a violently anti-Trump group. Hiring them to do the prosecution strategy is like hiring a fox to prepare the safety memo for your chicken coop. It's just insane. But this is what they're doing. Another group called the 65 Project makes very clear their goal is not just to get everybody disbarred, but to make them so toxic in their firms and their communities that lawyers won't want to take on these kind of cases again. And it's not just the election challenges, it's any case that challenge the narrative coming out of the government that you want to speak back against, whether it's boys playing in girls' sports or middle-aged men exposing themselves in your daughter's public pool locker rooms or whatever it is. They're trying to silence and cower attorneys from taking on those cases that challenge the progressive leftist mindset. We can't have an adversarial system of justice if they succeed in that, which is one of the reasons I'm fighting so hard against it.
Yeah, and what we're talking about here is just all the precedent that could be set in going forward. But when we look at this, somebody like you or anybody else that wants to take up cases like this and wants to just even go through and speak out against wrongdoings that they see, what legal advocacy do you see that they're trying to impose going forward just to make sure that you will be made an example of, essentially, in this case?
Well, and you compare it to the leftist outrage against President Trump sanctioning law firms that engaged in the biggest political scandal in American history, the Russia hoax, laundering millions of dollars from the Hillary Clinton campaign to pay foreign spies, including a Russian agent, to create this false story that they then used to spy on the president's campaign. So he's going after them, and the left's reaction to that has just been priceless. How dare you go after law firms and lawyers that are just representing clients? And in fact, the very thing that they're doing against me and Rudy Giuliani and so many others. One almost thinks that maybe Trump did that action just to see what their reaction would be and how hypocritical they would demonstrate it to be.
Yeah, I mean, it truly is unconscionable. And what you see now, though, I'm curious your thoughts on this. There's some good things happening right now, as you referred to, where you can see the turning back of the tide a little bit in the legal profession, where obviously they were making it essentially illegal, right, or unconscionable or unthinkable. You'd be punished if you stepped out of line. So, I mean, I'm seeing hints of that. I'm hearing hints of that across the country since the Trump win. What do you see in terms of, all those issues, like whether you can work pro bono, for the side that most of the country agrees with now or not? And it looks to me like it's rolled back a little bit, but I don't want to be, too optimistic.
Well, I am looking forward to a future unburdened by what has been. But unfortunately, the prosecuting attorneys in a lot of these states, I'm indicted in Georgia and Arizona, they didn't seem to get the American people's memo from the last election. And they're doubling down on their prosecutions. Fani Willis continues to prosecute the case against me in Georgia, even though she's been disqualified. It's rather stunning. It's almost as if they think, well, they had Trump's scalp in their grasp and now they can't get it. So they're going to prove they could have gotten it, but for the stupidity of the American people in electing him. So they're going to get mine instead and show that they could have gotten Trump's as well. That's their mentality. But 2 weeks ago, a very important thing happened up in Colorado. Tina Peters, who's now been convicted and sentenced to 9 years for making a copy of the election records as required by federal law when they were about to be destroyed. She's now in prison for 9 years, and they wouldn't even give her bond. This 70-year-old Gold Star grandmother wouldn't give her bond pending her appeal of those ridiculous charges. So the Department of Justice weighed in, supporting her bond pending appeal. But it went further, and it said, by the way, we're putting the court on notice that we are criminally investigating the prosecutors and the judge in that case for violation of fundamental constitutional rights. That's a huge shot across the bow of these prosecutors that are going after their political opponents. And I believe it evidences that Kash Patel at the FBI and Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice are not willing to let this stuff slide under the rug unchallenged. And they're going to aggressively look at what's going on.
Well, John, we've had you on the show before for birthright citizenship. You're one of the nation's foremost experts on this. We know that we have the Trump executive order and all the courts are trying to fight it. So where does it stand right now?
Well, the Department of Justice has filed an interesting move in the Supreme Court asking for judgment ahead of any Court of Appeals decisions, but limited to the nationwide injunction aspects of the current injunctions that have been issued, which is itself a separate but very important issue. Keep an eye open. You might see a brief coming from me in the next day or two, weighing in at the Supreme Court on that issue as well.
Well, I have heard the grapevine why you are in D.C., at least for this evening, and it's not a top secret event. You are going around the country showing people your movie, right? Is this correct?
I am.
With our friends at CPI, the Conservative Partnership Institute. So tell us about this and how people can watch it.
So, a group called the Madison Media Fund out of Hollywood. By the way, they're a nonprofit trying to push out conservative stories and documentaries to get the other side of the view that beyond what Hollywood normally puts out. They created this film called The Eastman Dilemma, Lawfare or Justice. I like to point out it's not my dilemma. I had never any dilemma at all in standing up for free and fair elections. The dilemma is in the colleagues in the legal profession on whether they're going to sit idly by and watch this lawfare go on, or whether they're going to stand with me trying to do something about it. But we premiered it in the Virginia area last night. The world premiere was 2 months ago down in Mar-a-Lago with President Trump and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni in attendance. We're going to be in D.C. tonight at Conservative Partnership Institute, and then a third showing in the D.C. area tomorrow night down in Alexandria. And people can visit my Legal Defense Fund site, givesendgo.com/Eastman, and the details on each of those events are there and how to RSVP. They can also watch it. It's currently free streaming until the platforms put it up on the paid platform. It's available for free at eastmandilemma.com. And I encourage everybody to watch it. Make movie night out of it and invite your friends and family, get some popcorn and watch this movie and get angry about the lawfare that's going on so that you contact your representatives and tell them to do something about it.